Hey Vancouver, this is Mike here, and we had to do an audio precursor for this episode because my mic, for the first 5 minutes, cuts in and out and doesn't sound super awesome. It does clear up after that, so bear with us for this small little glitch with our system, but it only affected my mic, and the other two mics were working fine, and mine does clear up after 5 minutes or so. So it's not a big deal. And thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for listening. And we just wanted to give you a little heads up. So on with the show. Hello, Vancouver. Welcome back to another episode of Vancouver Real. My name is Mike Zaremba, and with me always is my big brother, Andy.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? It's good to be back.
Yeah, we're back and doing another episode here down at Float House at 70 West Clover Street. And this is our 9-tank flotation therapy center, or float center, and we also have a 5-tank center in Kitsilano. So visit floathouse.ca to learn more about flotation therapy and sensory deprivation tanks. And if you want to use the promo code recovery, you'll save 20% off a single float. And we also like to always plug our good friend Omid's YouTube channel, Omega Point YouTube channel. Omid helps us behind the scenes with some of our tech support and helps us put these videos together, and we're very grateful for that. So go check out his YouTube channel, Omega Point, and he has a lot of cool, short, creative, inspirational videos around different authors and philosophers. And yeah, just check it out, and if you like it, subscribe to his channel as well. And thank you to all those who subscribe to our channel, and as well to the iTunes as well. We really appreciate all your support, and we look forward to another great episode today. And joining us is the one and only, the daddy blogger, Ricky Shetty. And Ricky, man, you're like,
everywhere.
You are
days.
Everywhere. It's pretty cool to see what you're doing.
I took my social media, and it says Ricky Shetty all over it.
So Ricky is he's I guess you're best known as like the daddy blogger. You know what I mean? Daddyblogger.com, and YVR Bloggers is another URL you have. YVRbloggers.com. YVRdads.com. So you're focused on like family, fatherhood, building strong communities, and you just excel with social media. You excel with blogging, and that's how we connected. Obviously, you when we first opened, you kind of reached out and said, hey, I'm a blogger. I'll love to come for a float, check it out, and do a blog about what you did. So thanks again for that.
Mm-hmm. And you did a great job with that social media mastery conference, for sure. Like that was great. Like I learned so much there, just about Facebook alone. And I have reasons now why I want to go explore Snapchat and things like that. Where I was like, I don't care about Snapchat, and now it's like Snapchat's like a real thing. Like it's important now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you do is you're throwing these conferences now. Not just throwing, you're creating these conferences. One is the blogmasteryconference.com, and also the social media mastery conference, smmedia.com, is it?
smmastery.com.
smmastery.com. So anyways, long-winded introduction, but welcome to Vancouver Real, Ricky.
Thanks so much for having me on Vancouver Real, and thanks for having me at the Float House today, Mike and Andy.
Cool.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you. We've been hanging out all weekend, though, haven't we?
Yeah, we were both speaking at the Bill conference. It was a great talk, and then you got to see mine as well. So it's great to support each other as fellow dads.
It is very cool. I know. It's really cool to see how our networks are kind of colliding in this city, And it's funny, you start going to these events, like I'm at Bill, and then I'm going to the Social Media Mastery Conference, and, doing Vancouver Real. Man Talks. And I start seeing familiar faces in this city, right?
And we're both speaking at Man Talks.
And we're both speaking at Man Talks, and then again at YVR Dads.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So kind of small world, but it's cool because it's really neat that, and this is something again you excel at, is building those communities, right? And it's great to have a community where people support each other. Mm-hmm. It's tough out there, right? We're all trying to make it. That's what we're all trying to do in this city, right? Mm-hmm. We're all trying to make it, trying to make a name for ourselves, trying to build something up, and to have someone like you, like a master networker, You know, it's huge. It's huge for us, right?
Thank you. Happy to serve the city. That's why I call it YVR everything, right?
Yeah.
YVR Dads, YVR Bloggers, YVR Foodies, YVR Entrepreneurs, because I want to support people in Vancouver around people's passions.
Cool.
Whether it's fatherhood or blogging or social media or entrepreneurship, business, etc.
Yeah. And how long have you been in this kind of this realm of what you've been doing? And when did you start? I guess, what was your first one? daddyblogger.com?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did you start all this?
A little bit of a backstory. I'm born and raised here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So this is my city. I consider it, very much a part of who I am, my identity. And I love that you call your podcast Vancouver Real. And so with my history, I graduated from UBC, went to Japan, taught English. That's why I have the Tokyo Riki handle. And then when I came back here, when I was going to be a dad, I was looking for kind of like, I was kind of lost, honestly, if you're going to get into it right now. But I was trying to figure out who I am, what I want to do for business. And I just started with my passion. My passion was fatherhood and family, so I was just like, hey, there's not many resources for us dads, and as Andy can attest.
So true.
There's so many resources for moms, and there's a lot of mom bloggers, and a lot of mom books, and a lot of mom websites, but there's hardly any resources for us dads. So I just started there. I was just like, okay, there's a need. It's my passion. Let's serve the need by writing about my passion.
Cool.
So I started daddyblogger.com, and that was on December 1st, 2012. So it's been over 2.5 years.
Wow.
And it's just taken off really quick. In a couple of years, it's become one of the biggest resources for fathers with the internet. It has really high SEO ranking too. So if you search daddy blogger or fatherhood, it's up there on the first page of Google, which gets me a lot more readers, right? Just people searching for resources for dads, and I pop up there.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I started daddyblogger.com, then I went to YVRdads.com, and then I wrote a book about fatherhood, and then I started launching the other communities,
Right.
so the blogging community, the foodie community, and then from there I started doing the conference stuff, so the social media conference, the blogging conference, the internet marketing conference, the podcasting conference, and the business conference. So that's, in a nutshell, is kind of my background.
Yeah. What were you doing for work? You said you were teaching English in Tokyo. Is that what you were doing before you started the whole online entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah, like I said, I was a little bit lost because I graduated with my degree in psychology, and with that degree, there isn't much you can do with that degree. It's kind of like a good degree to understand human behavior.
Sure.
And if you do a master's or a PhD, then you might be able to get a good solid job as a counselor, or even have your own counseling
Professor
practice.
potentially.
Exactly, yeah. But I couldn't figure out what to do in that field. And in terms of like other work jobs I've had, I was a bank teller. I was doing telecom on the phone. I was doing fundraising on the street. So I've done a little bit of odds and ends, but nothing stable corporate-wise. So it's a little bit of a lost soul, if you want to call it that. And then in the last couple of years is really where I started finding my drive, my passion. And I think those lost soul years, if you want to call those, was really when I was searching. So that's when I went to Japan to figure myself out. Then I spent about 5 years traveling across Asia.
Cool.
So I've been to Southeast Asia, China, Tibet, Nepal, India, where my roots are. Went out to Australia. So it was really much a lot of ethnic search, soul search, and travel, a cultural soul search. And then I was trying to figure out my career. So I started doing like network marketing companies too, played around with that. And then I started finding really what I'm good at.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that too a little bit, just about the traveling thing. I was going to ask you, like, what about traveling for you that kind of was able to help you kind of understand yourself better and to learn and to kind of identify what your interests and passions are? What about the traveling aspect and seeing these different cultures kind of helped you in that manner?
I don't know. Travel is so broad. Learning university, it's so hard to summarize what I've learned through my travel journeys. Sure. I mean, I've been to 40 countries. I've lived on 4 continents. I've met hundreds of people in my travel journeys. But if I want to boil it down, I think the summary of it is that people are very different. We're all very different based on like continents and cultures and ethnicities, etc. But yet at the root of it, we're all very similar. So whether they were Indian like myself, or Caucasian like you guys, or Chinese or Aboriginal, I think we're all at the core similar. We have all of our own similar issues, whether it's brokenness, or whether it's we need healing, or whether it's we have fears, but also we are common in terms of we need to strive for our goals and our dreams and our hopes and our visions. So I feel our weaknesses and our strengths are very similar, and traveling really taught me that, because when I was in Asia, I saw so many differences. I'm just like, this is so unlike Canada. But if you go down to the personal, the individual level, we're just the same, right? So I'm still trying to understand that and articulate that. Like, how are we different, yet how are we similar? So I hope that long-winded spiel helps elaborate how we're similar. I think in terms of our weaknesses, our strengths, our hopes, our dreams, our desire for love, our desire to love, our desire to make a difference. I think we all have that. Whether, but you know how the hierarchy of needs, the Maslow, if our felt needs aren't met, the financial need, the security need, a need for love, etc., we can't really go up that ladder. And I think other cultures in like Africa or Asia, they haven't met those felt needs: security, safety, food, water, right? But if we can meet those needs, then we can all basically do what we're meant to do.
Totally.
Which is live out a passion fully, completely, totally.
Right. Yeah.
What were some of the highlights from Asia, favorite countries that you visited?
Sure. I love Japan, and that's why I use Tokyo-Riki as my Twitter handle, etc. Because when I was growing up here in Vancouver, my parents had homestay students, so I would be living with these Japanese, Koreans, Mexicans, Brazilians, but especially a lot of Japanese people living in my home. And in the 80s, there were a lot of influx of Japanese tourists, and they'd be doing these ESL programs, and they'd be staying in local families. So we had students, I think, from like a lot of my elementary years and a lot of my high school years. So I would say a good period of 5 to 6 years and that obviously helped pay off a mortgage and all that because they were paying to stay with us.
Yeah.
It's kind of like renting, but they actually get immersed in the culture.
Family.
Like, they eat with us and they hang out with us, learn what we're all about. So that's what got me interested in Japan. So I would say out of all the countries I've been to, Japan definitely, because they have such a kind of like a blend of like really traditional culture, the Japanese Buddhist or Shinto culture, yet they're very modern. They have Sony and Panasonic, and so I really like that dichotomy of ancient and modern mixed into one.
Right.
Were you there before or after Fukushima?
I was there in 2001.
So way before.
I think it was way before all the Fukushima stuff happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. But and I think they've gone through some pretty hard times, like economically, because of that. But yeah.
I mean, you look at the history of Japan too. World War II, right? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they've like been destroyed almost. But they were resilient, and they bounced back, and they're one of the most powerful nations on the planet Earth.
Totally.
And it's a small little island, so I'm really fascinated by that culture specifically.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm not sure where I came across it, but now they're kind of identifying like a very unique workaholic kind of atmosphere there now because of like the World War II, the bombing, and then they had to work so hard to rebuild their whole civilization. In essence, they literally got destroyed by these atomic bombs, and so they had to instill this incredible like work ethic. And now you have people. I remember talking or watching. I think it was on Departures or something. They're saying like you get like 2 days off a month. They work 6 days in a row, like crazy hours. Like their culture, work ethic is just. But now it's like getting to a point where like suicide is an issue and all this kind of stuff, So
there's so many of those cultural issues there, definitely. And a lot of the Japanese culture is very workaholism driven. So they almost need a few float tanks there. You might need to open up a float center in Japan.
Well, I've actually heard that like the bathhouse culture is actually very big over there. In fact, what they'll do is they'll go work all day. They go to these bathhouses and then actually sleep there and then go back to work the next day. Did you ever see anything like that?
I don't know if they sleep there necessarily, but they're called onsens. And basically it's like outdoor hot springs. And I've been to several of those. So that's very much part of their relaxation culture. But it would be cool to see how a flotation tank would work there. I'm not sure if they have any. It might be a good thing to research.
Well, I'm sure a city the size of Tokyo could support one center as a test. I think it could definitely be done. So if there's anyone out there looking to do something, definitely shoot us an email. We'll figure that out.
And especially if they make it like anime or manga focused, so they might have the Hello Kitty float
Hello Kitty float tanks. You open it up, and this is like decorated with the Hello Kitty, and it opens up, and it's like the mouth of the kitty, and you crawl into it and you float. They love that. And it takes little photos of you in the tank, like, hey! Actually, that's like stereotyping or something. I don't know. But whatever.
It's funny. That's cool. But let's get into you a bit more. You said openly like your passions are family, fatherhood, and building strong communities. And that's kind of really what you you exemplify with your work and your online communities and the blogs that you've created. I think it's really clear to see that it's very authentic, and like it's like you say it and you live it, and when you do something like that, it just kind of shines through, and there's more weight and gravity to the words that you use, because of that, because you're talking from experience, you're talking from a passion and a true love for it, and was it something that you have always had? Was it this, or is this something that really kind of spawned from becoming a husband and becoming like a father? Like what kind of catalyzed this, this truth to be coming out of you in that way?
Thanks for that question. I always look at it comes from a place of deep pain. So my pain has become my passion, honestly. And to quickly give you a backstory there, my parents didn't have a good family upbringing, and I think a lot of our identities today goes all the way back to childhood. And quick story here is that my parents, they had arranged marriage, and it wasn't the best marriage. I mean, there was a lot of issues there, even things like domestic violence or adultery, a lot of disharmony. We never had family dinners together. We never went on family road trips together. No camping. Even though we live in this beautiful province, I don't have those memories of going on camping trips or road trips. It was just like my mom would flee with me to a battered women's shelter, and that's the memories I have. So I would know all the battered women's shelters around Vancouver, but I wouldn't know all the parks or the natural reserves or the hiking trips and all that, right? So I came from a place of inner brokenness, and that actually led me to being really broken, insecure in high school. So as you guys have heard, I was actually got voted. Maybe the viewers won't be able to guess, but you guys know it already. I wasn't voted the most handsome, as I'm surprised. I don't know why I didn't get voted most handsome. I didn't get voted best athlete or most likely to succeed. I got voted most shy in high school. And there's an actual picture in my high school annual to prove it, that I was really got voted most shy. And I was this broken kid. And even when I said the lost soul years, that was part of my brokenness, because I feel identities are really rooted from our family, right? When we have a strong functional family, we have strong identities, and if we have broken families, we have broken identities. That's my more or less feeling around identity formation. I feel our identities are largely formed from family, but then obviously from culture, from the choices we make, etc. Right? So the reason I started Daddy Blogger and I'm so passionate about family is because I didn't have one growing up. And that led me to brokenness and alcohol and drugs and LSD and all this bad stuff. Like for me, it was bad stuff anyway.
Sure.
I'm sure, like the LSD trip screwed me up and all that, right? So I was really broken. And now I'm fairly whole. And that had to do with a lot of inner healing, a lot of self-understanding, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of catharsis, letting it out.
Sure.
So that's the reason. So from pain to now, it's my passion.
Right, and what was your main, what tools did you use to help you get past all that old brokenness and hurting and all that? How did you get past all that?
Yeah, that's another great question, Andy. So I'll quickly share with you kind of my religious background too. I grew up Hindu, so my parents, I don't know if you know much about the Hindu tradition, they have idols and stuff like that. So I used to believe in this small elephant statue of Ganesha, and my parents gave that to me, so I just pray to Ganesha all the time. But no matter how much I prayed to Ganesha, I never got answers, never got a relationship with Ganesha. So I basically rejected the Hindu faith. I more or less became an atheist throughout high school and university, and I became really angry at God. I was just like, why would you put me on this planet with this broken family and this confused identity? So I was angry at God. I basically rejected him. But in university, I started seeking again. I'm like, maybe it wasn't God's fault. Maybe it was my dad's fault for being such a bad dad.
Yeah.
He made choices, right? So I was just maybe it wasn't blaming him. Maybe it was blaming my dad, or maybe not blaming at all. Maybe just the circumstances led me to what I am today, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So instead of blaming, I started just trying to understand. But really, it started from a place of blame. And then I was like, okay, let me try to understand it now, right? So then I ended up becoming a Christian, and that's a whole other long story. But I became a Christian, and part of the reason I became a Christian because I finally got an answer from God. When I prayed to God in the form of Jesus, He answered me. So now I have a relationship with Him. You probably know the whole Christian story, right? Relationship with God as opposed to religion. So now I'm a strong Christian as well. So that's part of my identity, my faith. So I look at it as 7 F's. So faith first, family second, finances third, fitness fourth, focus, fun, and future. Those are my core values. And that's, like you said, the authenticity. I really lived that message out.
Yeah.
So first thing was the changing point was that faith, finding my faith, and forgiving my dad. because when we're hurt, we're usually very angry, very bitter, very resentful, very judgmental, right? And that was me. I was living those emotions, right? And then when I became a Christian, there's a whole thing about forgiving, letting go, moving on, loving your enemy, right? So I just like went to my dad, and if you were my dad, I just went to him and I said, I love you, I forgive you. I started crying, and there was this reconciliation, this moment of almost the relationship was healed to some degree.
Sure.
It's still not fully healed, but I think just that act of forgiving, the act of saying I love you, because we never did that as a family. We never said I love you, or my mom did, but not my dad and me. My mom would always say I love you. So I had it from one parent, but not from both. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing. Secondly was traveling. So just traveling and being alone and exploring the cultures, that helped me to be, if anyone's listening or watching who's really shy, traveling is another really great way of opening yourself up.
Huge.
And also the type of jobs I had. So my first ever job was I was a Subway sandwich artist. I worked in the Subway, and I was forced to be outgoing because I was making these sandwiches, and I started talking to customers slowly. How are you doing? How was your day? And I was really shy making sandwiches at first, but then slowly started breaking out my shell. And then I was a bank teller. Again, I was forced to be a little bit more outgoing, right?
Yeah.
So type of jobs, travel, and my personal faith that helped me overcome my shyness.
Yeah, that's smart. That's a really smart tactic, actually, because you're right, with those customer service jobs, even if at first you don't even know what to say and you think you sound silly or something, but the thing is, you get so many opportunities in a day, especially at a fast food restaurant like Subway. You get maybe 100 opportunities to chit chat. So you actually get to practice. And these types of positions, they actually can become very, very valuable in a lot of ways, because that the whole learning how to communicate to somebody in that customer service relationship. I mean, I'm sure you probably carry those merits today, when you're interacting with people online and stuff like that. It's about always having respect and trying to just, no matter what, just find the positive to be like, how's your day going? Whatever it is, you know what I mean? Whatever that chit chat is. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and there's a dichotomy of introversion and extroversion, right? So there are a lot of people who are introverts and they want to be a little bit more extrovert or outgoing or social. So I would recommend just getting a job which forces you to do so. And another tip I had was Toastmasters, because I was scared to speak in public. I was shy, nervous. I would be the one in the audience just taking notes and just watching. But Toastmasters helped me as well, just if people want to overcome their shyness and be more confident.
How long have you been doing Toastmasters for now?
I don't do it anymore because now I'm speaking anyway all the time.
Right.
But I did it for about 2 years, and that was good but there's some problems with Toastmasters because you kind of you're in a safe zone, right? So you're speaking in a safe zone. So I like Toastmasters because you start to speak, but then at some point you need to speak outside of Toastmasters and not just stay in the Toastmaster bubble.
100%.
Yeah, we've both been a part of Toastmasters as well, and it is a great place to practice and learn and refine your skill, but you need to also, it's very easy to get used to that audience, used to that environment. So because when you go to a new one where it's like a different microphone, different lights, different people, those nerves will just they'll flood back again. You know what I mean? And actually, that's something I was going to ask you, Andy, because you just did Bill Talks, and he's just been doing Toastmasters the last 8 months.
6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
And then this was kind of like your first real public speaking gig. So
it was, yeah.
Just shifting gears, how was that outside of the Toastmasters realm?
I think it went well. I was nervous, but no more nervous than when I first started practicing at Toastmasters, to be honest with you. It was, I think it was good. It wasn't anything surprising. The biggest surprise for me, actually, was when I went on stage and the light was shining right on my face, and I was like, I couldn't even see the audience. I was like, it took me back for a second. I was like, whoa. I'm like,
that's the whole environment thing.
It was strange.
And you had a microphone this time too.
Yeah, I had a microphone, and I didn't mind that. I kind of worked out well. But then I kind of just got into my story, my routine, and it just started flowing out, and it was all right after that, you know. But at the very beginning, I paused, and I almost lost my place. I was like, ooh, and then I picked it up again, and then kept going. So but it was pretty cool.
Practice is
and I was in the audience. He did a phenomenal job. It was very inspirational and hard moving, and I saw everyone was really attuned to his message. So great job in your first ever speech.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. And Toastmasters got me there for sure. I mean, that's the first step.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Personal growth in any way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I also want to go back to what you said about your F's, but the one F that I don't think is part of your 7, but you said forgiveness, and having that.
Yeah,
element.
that could be the secret F.
That's
the hidden F that I
the
didn't,
magical 8.
Yeah, the magical 8.
8F. I think that's huge, because you're right. Like, despite how much pain your dad may have caused you, to go up to him and like just forgive him, and I mean, I'm sure that was huge for him too. So what a kind of a gift you were able to give him for that as well. So I mean, you do acts like this, and like they seem. There's no monetary value to them. There's no, accolade associated with them or accreditation, but it's something that just catapults you into a new level of being yourself, another level of being Ricky or being whoever you are, and those are probably like the most valuable things you can do.
Yes.
Aside from any professional accomplishment or vision of that sort. I think it's super powerful stuff.
Yeah, because a lot of people are really accomplished in their career. They're making lots of money, but then they have a broken marriage, or the kids hate them, or they hate their own brother or sister, and you don't see that. You just see that they're financially successful, right?
Yeah.
But I think forgiveness is so core to all of us, because we've all been hurt, whether it's been by an ex or by a kid or by a parent or by a sibling. That's why I love you guys, that you guys have this strong sibling relationship, right? That's awesome, because I know a lot of other siblings, they don't have this relationship like the Zaremba brothers, right? So you guys are actually inspiration to other brothers and sisters.
Well, I mean, and to be all honesty too, there's a third Zaremba brother, but he, he's our younger brother. His name's Paul, and he, don't get me wrong, we love him very much, but we're not on this, we don't seem as much. We're not as interrelated with him in terms of our work and our jobs and stuff like that. So our lives just aren't as connected, which is, it's something that we try to work on, but it's difficult. Families are, but that's like, those are the lessons. That's like, God or source or the universe, whatever you want to call it, gives you these opportunities in your life to reconcile and to learn, and these are the big lessons is to take, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a lot longer than we want.
Totally.
Sometimes we need the time to heal and time to forgive and time to realize we need to forgive.
Yeah, and just trusting the process, trusting that you're going to get through whatever you're going through, it might not seem like it right now, but you will, and just keep waking up and keep breathing. There's a cool, did you ever see the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Ago?
Great movie.
So good. At the end of the movie, he got he got like a quarter section of this porta potty, which he ended up using as a sail, and he had a cool little line at the end about like, just keep breathing, because you never know what the tide could bring, and just keep going. You know what I mean? If you're struggling through something. So that's our sentiment for this show. So right
yeah. And I mean, for me, like, I'm 38 now, and it took me like 34 years to really figure out what I needed to do, right?
Oh yeah.
But if you looked at me in my 20s, and the people who knew me in my 20s and all, they're like, yeah, he's a basketball player. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just traveling around the world. But actually, I was doing something. I was trying to figure it out, and it's processing. And then I came back, and now I'm functional, and I'm able to do what I love.
Yep.
But maybe if I just finished university, went to the workforce, got a corporate job, made 6 figures, I might have missed on that whole part of my life, the discovery zone. And then a lot of people, that when they look back at their life, they like, I didn't travel enough, or I didn't do what I loved, right?
Yeah.
But I did. I am. So I'm glad I discovered it early in some ways, even though I'm 38 and I discovered it in my mid-30s, right?
Yeah, I think, having that realization of what really is valuable in your life, like we have these expectations kind of forced upon us within our popular culture that the accumulation of wealth, and I'm talking like monetary wealth and some sort of prestige of how you look and celebrity and notion and all that kind of stuff. That's like what we all should strive. Like, we idolize that online. We idolize that on television. You know what I mean? So we get this distorted view, and then you get these people by maybe like midlife, 50, 60 years old. They're like, they have all that accumulation, and then they still have that lack.
Yes.
And they realize maybe not. Hopefully they do realize even then that there is something missing. There is something else, and I think that the internet's been a huge catalyst for allowing younger people to realize that sooner in their lives versus figuring it out, just by trial and error by the time they're 50 or 60, when a lot of their chunk of youth is gone. I think there's immense toolism the internet to help us with that.
Yeah, it's true too with the internet. Like, I mean, it is like the equalizer in a sense, right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now if it wasn't for the internet.
Yes.
You know, and even Float House, for example. I mean, we were able to market on a really quite large way, on a bigger scale. And before, I'm like, how does a startup brick and mortar even do it? You know, is it just all word of mouth and you put up some posters and hopefully somebody walks in? Is that what it is? You know,
must have been.
It must have been.
Yeah.
And now,
And I mean,
you know,
that's how I
maybe
found out about
print
the Float House, social media.
Social media, right? And it's so powerful because you can market locally,
Yes.
right? So you're not wasting your money by going on the radio and broadcasting 300 kilometers out where no one's gonna, you know, we're gonna miss the target audience anyways, right? So
and even podcasting, this is
yeah.
one of the big marketing channels that people can use, right?
Totally.
And a lot of people think it's too difficult, especially with all these cameras all around, right? But you don't really need that. You can do this podcast from your phone. Really, there's like
really
an app
can.
called Spreaker, and I started my podcast, and all I did is I downloaded the app, and I pushed record, and I have my own podcast. And I'm sure I'll get to this level with you guys with the cameras and all the equipment and all that. But you don't need that. Just start simple.
You're right.
And
Yeah.
then work your way up.
Yeah, and you know, iTunes, you just put it on there for free, and then you just put it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and as long as you have something that people are gravitating towards, then it's gonna go. You know, so it's cool.
Yeah. Podcasting is definitely exploding right now. There's a lot of podcasts out there. So that's one of the hardest challenges now is how do you make a name for yourself and get noticed, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just, again, having that community, having those networks and kind of working your way up the ladder, getting like, you know, bigger and bigger guests is kind of how it goes, I think, you know?
And I think podcasting is almost easier to get ahead now because like blogging is so saturated. There's literally millions and millions and millions of blogs, so it's very hard to stand out among the bloggers in the blog sphere. But in the podcast sphere, if you want to call it that, there's not as many, and people still don't fully get it. So if you look at it 5 years from now, then there'll be probably millions of podcasts. So actually now is a good time to get on the podcast.
So with that being said, then
bandwagon.
with you know, if you and this is I want to know this for preparation for our podcast, but with blogging, how do you help to keep your blog seen and expanding and relevant? Like, you know, how do you combat the other million bloggers out there? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I think just generally, whether you're on blogging or whether you're on social media, whether you're on podcasting, I think it's having that unique voice and also being different or finding your differential. There's a great book by Seth Godin called Purple Cow, and he talks about how to be the purple cow in a sea of black and white cows, right? So in a sea of black and white blogs, how can I be the purple blog?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like there was a lot of mommy bloggers, there are a lot of like bloggers in general, but I was trying to figure out that unique niche, and for me it was the fatherhood niche. And then when I found that unique niche and it's connected to my passion and my purpose, I was just like started spilling out of me, right? I was just like blogging like crazy. So I blogged like every day for almost a year. Wow. I was just that passionate about the topic. And that's part of the reason for the success. So I had a unique niche. I also had quality content, and I also had quantity content. I had all the I talk really personally in my blog about my journey, about, you know, like I mentioned those things like the childhood struggles, the lost years, or the divorce of my parents, my struggles in my own marriage. I talk about communication with my wife. I talk about sex with my wife, the lack therefore when we have kids, right? So these things that all parents struggle with, I was open and I was willing to share about that. And money struggles, right? Work-life balance struggles. So I think just the fact that I was willing to be vulnerable, that's another really key to success with a blog. Because it's not really about just getting sponsors and advertisers and just writing what people want to hear. I think it's really, the more vulnerable you are, the more, and I noticed in my blog post, by the way, the ones that are really vulnerable and really deep and really just authentic, I get so many blog comments on those. And the ones where I'm just writing a promo post or something, not as many comments. So that was a really something I learned from my experience. Be vulnerable on your blog. People want to connect with that vulnerable self. Because whatever I'm being vulnerable about, I'm not the only one who's come from a divorced family.
Totally.
I'm not the only one who hates my father.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who struggles to forgive.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who struggles with communication or sex or money in my marriage.
Yeah.
I'm not the only dad who struggles with work-life balance, right? So I think I was just being real. I was being me, like you said at the beginning. And people who are me, who are themselves.
Yeah.
Cool. But there's all these other tips about blogging. So I would say, in terms of building up your readership, there's like a few different ways to market your blog. So I would say email marketing is the top one. They always say the money's in the list as well. So if you build up a strong email list, then you can promote different affiliate products to them, or you can promote, if you create your own products, you can promote it to your network. But it's also building up a communication channel, right? So email marketing, social media marketing. I'm a big fan of video blogging as well. So building up your presence on YouTube, and doing guest blog posts is another good one. Doing interviews. So I interviewed over 100 different dads on my blog, and that's where the book came into being. I just had all these interviews on my blog. I'm like, hey, I need a book, so let's put them onto a book. So I had the interviews. I do a contest as well, so I give away a lot of free stuff. Like I've given away a printer, I've given away a laptop, I've given away like a phone, TELUS from TELUS. I've given
Any
away
floats yet?
No, we can make that happen if you guys want to.
For sure.
We can do a float contest. I'm really open to any kind of contest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways you can build up your readership, but those are maybe 5 or 6 of the big ones.
Cool. Yeah, and I guess this is a lot of kind of this very entry-level stuff that you'll be talking about, your blog mastery conference coming up. When is that coming up, by the way?
Yeah, so I'm doing 5 big conferences this year. It's hard enough to just do one conference, but I'm doing 5. So I just completed my first one called Social Media Mastery, which you guys were at, and that one had 215 people. I put 0 money down, 0 paid advertisement, and I did it from conception to production in 3 weeks.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, so it was just a hot topic, and it met a need in the marketplace, social media education and training, and the speakers were phenomenal as well.
Yeah, they were.
And I had a lot of affiliates on board, so I had about 30, 40 affiliates who were helping me market it. So one guy alone, Matt Astafan, he sold me like 34 tickets. So I just, just having those good affiliates on board.
Yeah.
So I did that conference, and it was a success. So I already had an idea even before that conference to do other ones, and I want to build it up from social media to blogging to internet marketing. And I'm also doing one on podcasting and business mastery.
Cool.
But basically, I look at social media as basically you're renting. If you look at the real estate analogy,
it's true.
I feel like when you're on social media, you don't really own the social media. Facebook owns it, or Twitter owns it, or LinkedIn owns it, or iTunes owns it, or whoever, right? It's basically the social media platform that owns your content. Whereas if you have a blog, you're the owner. You own the home, if you want to call it that, right? You have your real estate on the internet, and it's totally, completely, fully yours. You can customize it, you can personalize it, you can do what you want. It's your home. If you want to make it a mess, make it a mess. But if you make it clean and tidy, organized, make it that way, right? And then I look at the next step is internet marketing, which is investing. So you go from renting to owning to investing, kind of like what my journey's been. When we first got married, we didn't have much money, so we rented for a couple of years. Then we finally bought a place, so now we own a place, and eventually we want to buy some investment properties. And I think that's the same with internet marketing. You start with social media because everyone's on it. We're like, okay, create a fan page, etc. Yeah. Then you start your own website, and then you're like, wait a second, I can do other stuff. I can do affiliate marketing, or I can do Amazon, or I can do Kindle, or I can do eBay, or I can do, there's so many different options. You can open up an e-commerce store. You can open up a membership site. So there's so many different internet marketing tools, and that's what I'm going to be teaching in my next conference.
Cool.
But the one before that is Blog Mastery. It's coming up on April 25th, 26th, and it's a 2-day event, and it's open to anyone. And this is what I want to say too. It's not just for bloggers. It's for any business owners who want to leverage a blog to market the business. And there's so many benefits to a business owner like you guys. In terms of having a blog, the first is like the SEO benefit. You have the presence on Google, and also there's the know, like, and trust factor. So if you're blogging about whatever your business is about, you're building up a know, like, and trust connection with your potential customers, your clients, right? And people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
So
100%.
writing about
and building relationships.
Yeah, you're building up a relationship, and even getting other bloggers to write about Float House like you did with me, right?
Exactly.
All my readers found out about the Float House, right? And you guys shared it too, so it's good for me, good for you guys.
Yeah.
So I look at blogging as multiply beneficial. So the SEO benefits, the know, like, and trust benefits, the Google ranking, and it basically is evergreen as well. So that blog post I did about Float House, it still gets me hits every now and then. People will like find it on the internet and they'll click on it, right? So it's just like this evergreen long-term effect.
Right. Yeah. That's the cool thing about it is even with every episode that we do of Vancouver Real, the counts just keep climbing because someone will kind of start going, who knows, like they'll subscribe to the iTunes and on a big road trip and they'll bang off 5 episodes during their drive or whatever, or their flight. And those people are always being exposed to whatever you end up publishing. You know, so it just has this big accumulation effect, which is really pretty powerful stuff.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like whereas on television and stuff like that, it's played
one-time shot.
for that. Yeah, it's one
Yeah,
time
it's
shot.
gone.
It's
Yeah,
gone.
once the Super Bowl's
Radio,
over, it's over.
same thing, yeah.
Unless you put the commercial on YouTube. But
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you're seeing a ton now. It's
Yes.
like the big networks like NBC, CBS. Like, you know, they'll put a lot of these clips based off of, especially like their any show, but like their late night shows when they have guests on, and they're putting them on YouTube because it's just like such a valid form of media now. It's like straight up a form of media that if they aren't doing it, then they're just missing out on literally millions of views, which is what they get now. Like these big networks get millions and millions of views for, you know, when they have a super celebrity on their talk show or something, right? So it's crazy how it's just, it is, I know, social, like online media is morphing into mainstream media. It's just literally happening before our eyes, you know, like, and it's just going to keep kind of going in that direction. It's going to be, you know, but and the cool thing is though, you get people like us who can also play in that game. As long as your content is good, then you can go toe to toe with NBC potentially if it's that good, you know, which is amazing. It's really cool. It's really cool. So.
Yeah, I look at it like almost like there's two type of media. There's the traditional media, which is the radio, the print, the TV, etc. And now there's the new media, which is the blogs, the podcasts, the video blogs, right? So I think the new media is almost like becoming even more influential. Like for example, when there's a big news breaking story, I don't go to CNN or I don't go to NBC. I go to Twitter. I'm just like, okay, people on Twitter are going to be more active. They're going to be tweeting right away. Where CNN, they're going to send a reporter down there. They're going to send a cameraman down there. Then they got a live broadcaster, right? So it's almost like Twitter is a better way to find out about mainstream news rather than traditional news, which is shocking.
Yeah, well,
it's just the way it is now.
You're going to get more content faster and kind of unfiltered. You know, it's not going to go through those production channels of like, well, is this going to serve who pays our bills here? You know what I mean? Is it going to instead of like someone's just literally on the street taking pictures of whatever the hell's going on? You know, so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's flipping the whole paradigm on its head, and I think we're just kind of getting into an understanding of that now, and it's going to be cool to see, you know, 10 years from now. I mean, you can't even
here. Who knows? Right?
Who knows? Yeah.
It's amazing. It's super crazy how it's gone. It's amazing to see.
And the cool thing is we can all be part of that media communication, right? Because we all have smartphones. We can upload stuff on YouTube just like that from our smartphones. We can tweet stuff, etc. Right? So we can be the new media.
Definitely.
Each and every one of us.
Do you have any inside tracks on what's coming in social media? Any new big things coming out there?
Yeah, you know, that's hard to put my crystal ball out there and ask that question. I asked that in my conference, but I would say, you know, social media is it's not going anywhere, right? No. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's all these issues with privacy and all that, right? So a lot of people don't like the fact that Facebook owns that content. So I think that's becoming an issue. I think maybe in the future there'll be more social media platforms that they don't own our content, the users own it. I see that conversation becoming more and more prevalent in the social media dialogue. The privacy, who owns the content? Is it the user or is it the platform? I think that dialogue is going to continue, and I don't have an answer to that one. I think it's just going to, the dialogue will continue, and hopefully there will be some answers coming out of that one. I look at video and audio are going to be big as well, and I think it's not an either or. I think it's a both and. So the written content's a blog, podcasting's audio, video on YouTube, etc. So I think people who are effective in all of those are going to be the leaders of the new internet marketing or the social media revolution, right? Yeah. So I think what you guys are doing is awesome. You guys are integrating podcasting and video together.
Yes.
And not many other podcasters are doing this. A lot of podcasters are just doing the audio component. So I think podcasters, could follow your lead here by doing both together. And I'm not sure if you do a lot of written content based on each of the interviews as well, but that will help you rank.
Like transcribing it, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Because what happens with audio and video, they don't get recorded by Google. You usually need a blog post of at least 300 words. So if you have your interview, and then you have like a 300-word article about it, and then you have the audio, the video, and the written. And that's the magic, having all three together.
This is going to be a little bit off topic, but in terms of Facebook, like, what do you think the difference between Facebook and like MySpace was? Why was Facebook so successful and MySpace wasn't? Like, what in your mind, what was it?
I think people follow people, right? It's the sheep herd mentality, right? Yeah. So back in the day, there was something called Friendster, and there was something called Multiply, and these were like almost the pioneers in the social media space. And I was on both of those, and I had a Friendster account, and all my, those pictures and those the stuff I talk about traveling, it was all on my Friendster account.
Cool.
And then Friendster actually ended up getting bought out by a company, and then all my content disappeared. And that could happen with Facebook like that too. We don't know really. I mean, back in the day, we didn't know Friendster would happen to Friendster. Same with MySpace. We thought that was the king of the social media, but then all of a sudden, I think MySpace didn't adapt. There's this whole saying, "Adapt or die." Kodak, you remember that company?
Oh yeah.
Kodak was huge, but they didn't adapt to digital, right? They had the film, and they didn't adapt. Whereas all the other companies they realized digital is the next thing, not film. So Kodak ended up going bankrupt and laying off employees and all that, which was shocking. So I think I think this is why Facebook's still successful, because they are really good at adapting. And Mark Zuckerberg, he's like a little genius. I'm not sure what his IQ is, but I think he has a good team around him, and he's super intelligent. So I think he's just done what people want, and he's adapting to. And I think I like Facebook overall. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to like everything about any platform, but overall, I think it's a good platform. It does what I wanted to do.
It's the most diverse.
Yeah, like I want to share about myself. I want to share some pictures, my videos. I want to keep an archive of my pictures and videos. So it does my purpose. It meets my needs, more or less.
For sure.
And I think that's why it's being successful. Whereas something like Twitter, I find like it's not as personal. I find I can't really find out about a person's Twitter through the Twitter handle. So I personally like Facebook. I like YouTube as well. But I think with the social media question, I think it's really about what meets your needs. So I think if you're really a visual business, something like Instagram or Pinterest would be perfect, right?
Yeah.
If you're into fashion or food or travel.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm writing about fatherhood, and there's not many dads on Pinterest. Right?
Exactly.
So I don't use Pinterest much. I have a platform there. I put my blog posts on there, but it doesn't get me much traffic. But my traffic comes from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing why like the blog is powerful for us. Because it's about experiences, right? Being here is about an experience, and even like Vancouver Real is again, we're communicating an experience, which is something that it's hard to do visually. It's hard to take. How many pictures of the tank can you actually take over and over and over and keep reposting it, right? You gotta actually tell what's going on in there, or how it's changing people's lives and things like that.
Yeah. And I like how you're talking about the benefits of floating too. So it's not, because sensory deprivation, sometimes you think, oh, that's a bad thing. But then when you talk about the benefits like creativity or like rest or relieving stress, those are some things that are cool, right? So I'm like, yeah, of course I want to be more creative. I want to have less stress. I want to, so if you focus on the benefits, I think that would be a great thing. And also I think getting people to write about the experience too. So it's not, because there's the whole thing about third-party validation, right? If I'm a movie producer talking about the movie, I have a vested interest in that movie. Whereas if I'm an independent person who's watched the movie and I say, hey, check out the new movie Focus, right, with Will Smith. I watched it and I was like, I love that movie. Watch it, Mike and Andy, right? You're probably going to watch it rather than the producer talking about it, right? Same with you guys. Like, obviously, like if bloggers writing about it, I like how you have the Float Ambassador program. That's brilliant, right? Yeah. So, and I think even if you had like a float for free or something, the first float's free, because if you get people in there, they get to try it out, then they're more likely to come back, right?
It's true.
It's like coaching, right? Yeah. Usually a lot of coaches, they give the first session for free because they know they're that good that people come back.
Yeah.
They believe in the product that much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you have to believe in what you're selling, what you're servicing, and the cream will rise to the top. You know what I mean? Like if it's not something that's good,
valued,
then it will die off. You know what I mean? And
it should die off too.
Exactly. This is how it works, right? So
it might be a new marketing campaign that you guys put out there. First float for free.
You know what? We are always evolving.
We're not afraid to give away free floats. I mean, we do a lot of donations to just anyone, almost anybody. I might be shooting myself in the foot right now. Almost anybody that like kind of emails us asking, hey, we have this cause coming up, silent auction, door prize raffles.
As long as something legit.
No, I don't think you shoot yourself in the foot, because it's all about giving back. So there's a whole thing, givers gain. So the more things you give out, it'll come back to you. Yeah. Because it's like the law of sowing and reaping, the law of karma, the law of giving back. So I think you guys are doing an awesome job, and I can tell you guys are so heart-centered, and you're doing it from a place of like you've experienced it, and you want to help other communities.
Yeah, so. We definitely live and breathe what we do here for sure. I mean, we actively float all the time. You know what I mean? So if you're an owner of your business and you don't actually use your product, how can you can't that authenticity, right? You just not. People will see whether they're aware of it or not, whether they're conscious of it or not. If you're not authentic, will just it'll just, ooze out. Like you can't help it,
And I like how you called your show Vancouver Real. It's like floating real, or any business, it has to be real, right?
And for Vancouver Real, obviously it does help promote Float House, but we wanted to do something that could also be a little bit on its own too. Like, yes, we promote Float House, but it's a great networking tool. It's a great way just to get interesting stories in, and it's just another way of producing different type of content, not always float related, because like you said, how many pictures of the tank can we take? So well, what are we about? Like, what is the culture around floating? What is and also just Vancouver. Vancouver is such a dynamic city. Like, we live in a beautiful environment with an eclectic mix of people, and there's lots of creativity, lots of talent here. So it's just like, well, let's create a platform to showcase that more for people that maybe can't get on the mainstream form of media. It's like, well, let's talk to people who we want to talk to. Let's I'm sure other people do, want to hear from these other people, different entrepreneurs and people like yourself. So
I've been watching a few of them because I was coming on the show. I wanted to do my research, right? So I watched them and I got hooked. I was like watching one, I was watching the other. I was like, oh, this is cool stuff. Awesome. And then now I have a whole archive of videos I want to watch, and I like the combination of video and audio too.
Cool.
I haven't downloaded on my app, but then nowadays I'm looking at my car as like a university that I can learn from, right? So I listen to a lot of John Lee Dumas. I don't know if you know him. He has a great podcast. His is called Entrepreneur on Fire, and
I've heard of that. Actually.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It just interviews entrepreneurs, especially about their struggles, because I think all of us as entrepreneurs, we can talk about our success, but I think if we talk about our struggles, and even in the Float House, I'm sure you had your struggles starting it up, right? But a lot of people don't know those struggles. So I think if we share those struggles, people who are just starting in business, they'll realize that it takes failure to get to success, and fail fast, fail quickly, and then the success will come quicker too, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask you too, with your success in social media and getting known that way, and kind of being a personality online in the city, anyways, has that gotten you any kind of mainstream media coverage yet?
Yeah, no, I've been on all the mainstream. I've been on. I was just on the Huffington Post, and I was talking about masturbation in marriage. Honestly, I don't hold back. I talk about anything and everything.
That's an interesting conversation, actually.
So that's why the Huff Post interviewed me.
So how did that? Well, I'll let you delve into that one. So how did that one go?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I wasn't that one, but I've been on all the major national. I don't know if you want me to elaborate, but I'm happy.
No, I actually wanted to elaborate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have brought it up. You opened
No,
up.
it's completely appropriate. Right
well, basically, I just have strong feelings around that subject, and they found me on Google again, right? So. Because I think they wanted different perspectives on masturbation. So they wanted perspectives on from single people, from married people, from heterosexual people, from homosexual people, from parents, etc. Right? So honestly, there was like 5 people on the interview, and there was 4 people who are really like pro masturbation. Let's do it all the time, and it doesn't matter. And I was more of the conservative person, saying like, no, we need to have a partner to have sex, not just solo sex, right? So I was very strong on the fact we need to do it with a partner, and I was saying it within the context of being married, right? So I was saying, for me, I don't need to masturbate because I have a wife, and we had sex last night. Yeah, we did. And my wife can attest to that, right? Just last night we had sex after I came home from Bill, but and my wife's gotten used to the fact that I'm so open about everything. But I'm also open about the fact that after we had kids, we didn't have that much sex. And then there was a struggle to masturbate more, and I did masturbate during those times because I wasn't getting much sex. But I'm willing to have that dialogue, and I'm willing to open up about it because I know there's other people with those questions. So that's the answer in a nutshell.
And take it to a completely different place too. Is I think who was the guy? He goes on all the spiritual rants all the time. The actor, British actor. He does all this spirit. He does all these crazy rants.
Oh, Russell Brand?
Russell Brand.
Oh yeah, Russell Brand.
He just put out a video. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard about it, about like porn and how that's affecting people in our society today. And that is like, it's crazy how accessible that is now, especially for like kids or teenagers, compared to when we were growing up. When we were growing up, you had to like sneak into like your corner store and try to like get a magazine or something.
You find
like
the random porn in the woods,
something like that. But now it's like kids can Google anything. So how's that gonna change like for them? You know, how's that gonna change their perceptions around sex and what's normal and what's not normal, and how much is that gonna affect them in the future? You know, that's something that I think needs to be kind of looked at.
Yeah,
really.
and I mean, I do have strong opinions about all these subjects, so if people ask, I can get really fired up, right?
Yeah.
Like with porn, I see a lot of husbands, and I'm sure that they're watching porn. Even when they have a wife, they could have sex with any night of the week, but they're watching porn, and I think that's destroying their marriage, honestly, right?
Well,
so I'm so
and you know,
infuriated by that topic, because they're actually like thinking and imagining having sex with someone else's daughter. And as a dad of a daughter, that makes me angry too. I'm just like, the whole porn thing in itself, it's a whole issue we could dialogue about for hours.
It's kind of like celebrity and like having those unreal expectations to live up to. You know what I mean? So it's now you're getting these people who basically don't have real bodies. They're not real. They're like they've been cut up. Have implants. They have whatever. They're on testosterone, wherever they happen to be taking to look that way. Yeah. So it gives all these unrealistic expectations. And then when you look at your partner, you're like, well, my partner doesn't look like that. And then it kind of ruins what you actually have a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I think it's important to be real about all those things, that you're not going to have sex every day in marriage. You're going to have times when you have lots of sex, and times when you're not going to be as attracted to your partner, and then times when you might fall out of love, or you might fall back in love, or you might love more than other times, right?
Yeah.
You might get tempted with other girls or other men, right? So I think it's just important to be real about all that. And that's the kind of person I am. I'm just like being transparent about all the good things about me, but all the struggles about me too.
So you are a very transparent guy. And do you think that sometimes being too honest is actually can cause problems? How do you feel about that?
Well, you know the old saying, honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
So I think my my overall belief system around that is, the more honest you are, the better it'll be. But obviously, like, there's the whole thing about when can you lie, or like, for example, I might lie to my kids that there's a Santa Claus, right? But that's a whole different conversation. I don't know if it's lying or just like believing in fairy tales or like Mickey Mouse or something, right? But I guess there are exceptions to the norm, but I think the norm is like honesty is the best policy. There might be exceptions, but it's an exception. But in all cases, try to be honest.
Yeah.
And then figure out the exceptions as they come.
And for me personally, that comes down to trying to live my life as authentically as I can and be as honest in my own personal life as I can. Because the truth is, if I'm doing that, then I really don't have anything to hide, and it doesn't matter anyways.
Exactly.
So I find that, and it's really great to live like that if you can, because like you have a clear conscience.
Yeah.
You really do. And you walk around and someone's going to say something to you, but it's like, well, it doesn't really mean that much. It just slides off because you know the real truth. And so if you're acting authentically and being honest in your life, then
and it's
all
the
that
same
matters,
message
right?
to anyone, everywhere, right?
Yeah, and I think I think your body gives you those signals as well, and that's why it's important to like pay attention to what you feel on the inside. And I can give an example. Just today, actually, like last night, I was supposed to go to a good friend of mine's 30th birthday, and I went for a big monster hike yesterday, like 14 kilometers, and just I was exhausted.
Where did you go?
I went to Northern Falls. So it's 7K in and 7K out, and like 5 of the 7K are pretty like.
Did you go by yourself?
Yeah, like a medium
Where is
terrain.
it?
It's in North Van, Lynn Headwaters.
Cool.
You just kind of keep going. It was really cool, beautiful actually. And so I came back from that, and I was zapped. I just didn't feel like going. I wanted to just lie on the couch, and and this is someone I already committed that I was going to go, and I just didn't go, and. She was texting and I didn't even respond, and I felt kind of shitty, and I didn't know what to say. I was like trying to think of like a white lie. I was trying to think of an excuse. I'm like, I got nothing. And then this morning I'd kind of forgot about it over the sleep, and I woke up and then I started feeling really shitty, and I didn't really realize why. And then I kind of like, oh right, I need to at least respond to why I didn't show up last night. And then I just told her. I said I went on this big hike, and I didn't feel like being social, and so I just stayed in. And I'm really sorry. Can I take you to lunch next week or whatever? And I'll do that. But I didn't. And it was very selfish. It was very selfish. I mean, this is their 30th birthday, and I chose not to go. And so, it felt shitty, but just coming clean with it and being honest of why I didn't go, and that's why, and I admittedly say how selfish it was. I feel at least better about it, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
She probably appreciates us much more.
Well, she hasn't responded yet.
Okay, there you go.
But it was the truth, and that's at least I said the truth, and it felt there's something. And I'm not trying to say it felt good to say the truth, but it's like, well, there's nothing else to say.
Yeah. One thing I've been having, I'm a lot better at it now, is not committing to things that I can't follow through with. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I'll say yes to people because I want to say yes and I want to be the nice guy and says yes, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, why did I say yes to that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes easier to straight up to say no, I can't do this thing, and that's learning to be more selfish with my time essentially. Because before I like to just give and put myself out as much as I can, but I've kind of decided to take a step back from that and really only. I don't know. It sounds weird because I'm being more selfish this way, but at the same time, I can't just go out and do everything, you know. So I think by just learning how to say no, but trying to do it in a way that they don't get insulted, is a pretty interesting skill to learn.
Yeah,
you know?
It's putting boundaries, right? Boundaries are a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this comes with maturity too. You just kind of start to learn like not to overcommit, and that way when you do something, it's more authentic. You actually chose it, cut the time out, and made it happen. And I could have done that last night. I could have gone. The time was there, but I just didn't feel like going. That's the cold hard truth.
Yeah, and the truth about it though, if you had just probably told her that the day of, it probably would have been a lot better.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, I just didn't know what to say. I mean, I'm glad because I actually had a whole like flub texted out of like, someone at work, and then I didn't send it, and I'm really glad I didn't send it because I'm just like, I don't want to be, even if it's like, it's a lie that didn't really mean much, but it does, it does to me, and it's only going to really hurt myself. It's not going to hurt her in any way. It's just
that's a good way of looking at it.
It's just hurting me. You're kind of betraying who you are by not being honest.
Yeah. So do you want to wrap it up a little bit then? Or?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to just actually ask you one more quick thing.
Sure.
This is before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you have an opinion on this or not, because it is kind of a hot topic out there right now, is that Bill C-51.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you're an online guy, and, I mean, you don't hide anything.
Yeah.
And it's not like the things you're going to say are going to put you on a radar of security threat.
Yeah.
But just in terms of the acts of freedom and people's ability. And so for people that don't know what Bill C-51 is, this is this new proposal by the government to take a higher monitoring of all of our websites and communications and social media, and basically use them against us in any way they choose if they feel they need to. I don't know, have you been kind of following this at all, and do you have an opinion on it?
Yeah, it's funny because we were just at the Bill conference this weekend, and a lot of people were talking about that subject. There was a great talk by this guy, Nick, who does Freelancer, and he had this whole talk about public versus privacy and the Bill 51. But for me, I haven't been following that a lot, honestly, and maybe it's just not come across my social media as much, but I see it every now and then. So I don't have a strong answer to that, honestly. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's important to have the individual freedoms. I think governments, they need to protect and they need to observe to some degree, but not at the expense of our freedom. So where do we find that balance? Where they, because I'm not sure why they need to observe us more. If they need to do it to protect against robbery or theft, that's a good thing. But if they need to do it to invade our privacy, that's a very bad thing, right? So it looks like it's more for the invasion of privacy thing. So then obviously I'm not in favor of invasion of privacy, right? So yeah, I don't have a good answer. Do you guys have a good answer to that? What do you guys think about it?
It's a tough one, I think, because I mean, if you can actually, open up an email and then potentially stop a terrorist threat. We had this conversation on our podcast a little while ago, and that's a really good thing. But the truth is, the lines get really blurred. So for example, and the lines of morality start getting blurred. So for example, if somebody was really into something that might be considered obscene by somebody else, but really it's not really illegal, but then it could be used against you in the future. And it prevents you from getting a job or from moving up in your lot in life, whatever that happens to be. Where do the lines end? It's a slippery slope. So it's like, okay, you're not fighting terrorists anymore. Okay, we're past the bank robbers and all that kind of stuff, for the child molesters and all those assholes, right? Yeah. But now, what do you do when it starts becoming less and less, and they start going after petty things, like you say, hey, you want to come over and smoke a joint today, or something like that, and now all of a sudden it's out there and they could use it against you.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Scary stuff. What could happen?
Yeah, I think that it's hard for me because I look at the different decisions the government makes, and I mean, I can't even sit here begin to imagine that I can do the role of the government, or any individual could, and I can't imagine what their role is like. But you got to understand. Well, I think that they're just people as well, and it's just really tricky to place like a lot of trust in people you don't even really know, and you don't know what their interests are. There's just so much like non-transparency with the government and their intentions, and maybe it has to be that way. Maybe there's things that we don't know that it has to be like that, but I don't know that. So, it's really hard to put my trust and faith in them with the non-transparency of just everything that we kind of get. You know what I mean? Because when things start leaking out, I mean, I guess we get more of it from like the American government and stuff like that, just because they're just, they probably just got their fingers in more pies basically than the Canadian government. But you got to think the Canadian government's, they're doing stuff that we don't know about that maybe we wouldn't really approve of with our tax dollars that they're involved with. So just not knowing is really my hesitation with the whole thing, and I don't want the violations of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, if that's it's tricky. It's really tricky.
It's very tricky.
But
and I think there's good politicians and bad politicians on all extremes, right?
Totally.
Whether conservative or liberal or green or NDP, right? There's going to be good and bad in any of them. And I think if people really want to know, I think most of the politicians are very open, right? Like the MPs or the MLAs, if you go to the office and make an appointment, they'll sit with you. That's what they're there for, to serve our needs as citizens, right? But I think as citizens, we don't do enough of that.
Sure.
Because I think they're paid by our tax dollars, right? So I think if people are complaining about government, they need to do something about it by either talking to a local MP or MLA, or getting into politics themselves. If they want to change policy, become a politician. That's who changes policy, right?
Is that ever something on your radar?
I don't know. I've thought about it, but I think I'm so entrepreneurial, so I'm not sure if I could get into politics. Then it doesn't seem like politicians can be as entrepreneurial. I know, like Gregor. Gregor was an entrepreneur, and then he moved into politics, right? But then he still has his entrepreneurial.
What was his background?
Oh, he was an owner of Happy Planet, which is those juices, the juices. So he owns that company. I'm not sure what his status is now, but he founded Happy Planet, and then now he's the mayor of Vancouver. But I'm not sure exactly if politicians can own their own businesses. I'm sure some do as well, but I don't know. I think right now I'm in the entrepreneurial journey. So right now I just want to succeed in business and provide for my family, and who knows what the future holds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, on that note,
and I want to ask you guys a question to wrap up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm so passionate about family and fatherhood, etc. What I'm really curious about is, how do you keep the strong sibling bond, especially with the two of you? I know you have the third brother who maybe isn't as strong in terms of the three-person brotherhood, but how do you guys, Andy and Mike, keep your relationship strong? I'm sure, and your business partners too, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really curious about.
I think it's a lot. We've been working together for a long time now. We've been working together for over 5 years.
Yeah,
sure
well,
now.
and I mean, we went to university together. We actually played on the same football team together. We lived in the university housing together. So, and it hasn't always been this harmonious, and it's not always, a perfect storm. It's not always harmonious, but we understand each other a lot better now. We're way better at communicating.
And I think also too, we have a lot of similar understandings and way of thinking. So, he probably gets me more than anybody else. I can definitely say, when I say something to him, he understands where I'm coming from, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So it's just understanding, and we very rarely have problems. And if we do have a problem, it might last for 5 minutes, and then we're over it really quick, and we're like, it doesn't matter. We also do have a bigger perspective on our lives, I think. And we realize that at the end of the day, your family is the most important thing, and any kind of petty squabble that might happen at work or something, or around a decision, really is not worth your relationship with somebody. So I think we have a bigger picture in mind for the overall thing, and the smaller things just kind of fall off.
Awesome.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, super inspiring because I have 2 kids, for example, right now, right? And they're siblings. And they fight a lot. I mean, they're just like in 1 and 3. So they fight a lot. But I look at my siblings like 20 years from now or 30 years from now, and I love it if they're like having that relationship that you guys have.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
inspiring.
we were, we were involved in a lot of the same things growing up. But I mean, we used to fight. Like, we used to fight a lot when we were kids. It wasn't like some kind of weird animosity that would build up. But I mean, we'd fight over all the things that kids would fight over. And that was just normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, obviously I loved you as my brother, but I didn't like you as like my friend more so until it was like, more so when I went away to UBC after grad school. That's when we kind of started to become closer, because actually we were distant then. And so I think we started communicating a bit more, not a ton, but just some emails just kind of opening up. And then when I moved back, that's when, I don't know what really shifted or whatever, but we just started to kind of talk more. I think going on, we traveled a little bit together as well and could share that experience, so just sharing deeper experiences with people. That's something I think in our culture today that we lack a lot of, is ceremony and ritual, and having a richer experience with the people in your tribe or your family, create bigger and greater, stronger bonds.
Yeah, well, we have similar belief systems, I think, is a part of it.
Right.
Like our younger brother, he doesn't believe in the things that we believe in. He doesn't see the world in the same way that we see it. Like, to try to describe the two is kind of tough. Like, he's very kind of meat and potatoes, mainstream. Like, he likes his sports, he likes his movies, like his TV, he likes to go out for dinners and that kind of thing. Like, it's kind of traditional life in a sense, right? And Mike and I are very non-traditional on a lot of things that we do.
Right.
And I think he just, for whatever reason, I don't think he likes the instability. I don't know. That's pure speculation, to be honest with you. But we definitely have similar viewpoints on a lot of things where he thinks differently. And that's what it comes down to, a lot of it, I think.
Yeah. Just having a little bit of more to relate to, more to talk about, and like when we were creating Float House, we literally talked it out for I don't know how many months, years. Like, we literally would verbally hash out ideas and create, and we got into this process, this creative process with it, where we kind of just we'd sit and then something would come out, and then we'd both keep adding to it, and before we were done with that conversation, it's like this whole different thing. So we started with this little pebble, we'd add on to it to this boulder of an idea, and that's what it would come to. So we started kind of co-creating this process together just through our dialogue. And
it evolved to so many different things too. Originally we wanted to do like a yoga studio, and then we started observing some of the yoga studios in the city, and we saw why yoga is really quite dominant in the yoga market here, and we saw other small independent ones kind of struggling. So we're just like, well, okay, let's not do yoga, let's do something different. And we took a trip down to Portland, Oregon, and we found this little place called Float On, and they were doing float tanks really, really well. And so we had heard of it actually before that, but when we took that trip to Portland and saw what they were doing, on that drive back, we're like, forget about yoga. I mean, we still love yoga, we still practice it and all that, but we're like, we just want to do a float center. That became like the focus after we visited them. So I saw how cool it was, like all the things that they were doing. So I think that helped a lot. Yeah.
Good question.
I mean, obviously, if I'm talking about family and fatherhood, I'm really interested in the sibling relationships, right? So whenever I see siblings that are so tight and so strong and so alike and so harmonious, I'm curious to what made that successful, right?
Cool. Yeah.
So, and I'm sure the other siblings who are watching or listening who aren't as harmonious, so they could just come and talk to you guys, and you could probably give some tips.
We'll go for a coffee.
The strength of it for us is like, if I can't trust him, I mean, like in terms of like having a business partner as well, it's like, I mean, it's the best trust mechanism possible. You know what I mean? It's literally my family, my next of kin. That so when I go away or something, I can't work or something, like I can trust that he's going to do what's in the best interest for the business based off the decisions that he makes. And I, whether I would have made that decision or not, I just know that his interests are in the right place, and that's a huge thing with having the right partner in business. So if you have a partner partner, developing a really strong relationship is critical, and like having one with your sibling is
and it's actually,
paramount.
Since we have so many similar interests, we have a lot of similar friends as well, and we will do this a lot. Where like if they have 2 gatherings on one night, like he'll go to one and I'll go to the other, and we'll plan it out like that. It'll be like he'll go represent us at whatever friend's birthday party, and I'll go to this like friends meeting over here, and if one of us shows up, it's like, oh, we got one of them, it's good, and it actually works pretty well. We have a very synergistic relationship for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, because when you can work together with somebody like that, that's again, building community like you are so strong at, it just lifts everybody up.
Yes,
it amplifies what you're able to do and all that kind of stuff. So, thank you so much for taking this time, coming on Vancouver Real. Definitely check out Ricky's stuff. It's daddyblogger.com, DADDY blogger.com, YVRbloggers.com. Blog Mastery Conference is the one coming up April 25th and 26th, you said?
Yep, that's right.
So check that out for sure. Not even if you're a blogger, but if you're just a business that wants to learn how blogging can add to your business, it's a huge thing, So this will kind of take you from beginners all the way up to probably more advanced techniques.
Yeah, and if anyone out there likes to try floating, go ahead and enter the promo code RECOVERY. That'll get you a 20% discount on a single float. And you can also follow myself on Twitter and Instagram. It's Andy Zaremba. And Mike is Floating Yogi.
Floating Yogi on Instagram, Mike_Zaremba on Twitter. And it's Tokyo Ricky for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all your social media, Tokyo Ricky, YVRdads.com. We got a lot, so I hope you guys got your pens ready.
There's a lot of .coms there.
Yeah, go.
You can replay it on YouTube a few times.
But you know what? Daddyblogger.com has links to all of those.
Yes, just go to Daddy Blogger.
Yeah.
Done.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it again.
All right. We really appreciate all your support. Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah,
All right,
cheers
cheers.
for being on.
To whatever is.
To whatever is.
To whatever it is.